Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So, I know a lot of you have been asking for these ink videos, so they are now back. And I have a new series here, and this is at least 20 ink videos. So, I'm happy to bring this ink series back to everybody that has asked for this ink series. So today I have a Diamine ink comparison number 8 video, and you can see the inks here. So I think with that, let's go and swab up some of these inks. So I get a lot of questions on how I do these ink videos. So I decided I would add this to the front of each of the ink videos. I put links in the description, but I know some of you watch this on TVs or mobile devices, so you don't get to see this. So first off, the paper is the number one question I get asked. What paper do I use for these ink comparison videos? So this is the original Tomoe River. This is 52 GSM, and it is the white, not the cream, the white. Where possible, I try to go for the white because the cream can actually change the color of the ink just a little bit. So this is Tomoe River 52 GSM in the white. A lot of people get confused as well because I have what looks to be a grid on this page, and it's actually an Oxford Optik pad. These are the pads that I actually use when I'm writing my writing samples for pen reviews or in my currently ink. So they have these little squares up here. I just use that because it's a good guide for me when I put this very thin sheet of Tomoe River over. I can actually see squares, so it helps me write a little bit sort of straight on the page. Not always, but sometimes it does. The other thing that I also have is I have a bottle of water, plain water, and I dip my nib in here. So for consistency, I use the same fountain pen, or I guess it's not a fountain pen, it's using a fountain pen nib though. This is a 3D printed pen from William Shakour in the UK. So he prints this material 3D, and it has a number 8 size Bock nib which I can unscrew, and you can see there. So it is just a dip pen holder for a number 8 size Bock nib, and the idea is I want to have consistency with the writing sample. So I use this, I dip it in the ink, I write, and then I will dip it in here, and I will rinse the nib off several times, and I will dry it, and then at that point I will then go on to do the next ink swatch and the next writing sample. So there you have it. That's how I do my ink swatches. So I just wanted to show you that here. Now on to the ink comparison video. The first ink we are going to swab up today is Diamine Imperial Blue. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I have to say this is an ink that I purchased a while ago, and I have to say it's actually quite a nice sort of, it's not just a blue ink, it's got a bit of a hint of violet to it. So I'm just going over doing a second pass here, and people ask me why that is, and it's purely just to see the difference between what a wet and a dry ink would look like, or a wet nib and a dry nib. So this is an interesting ink, and I have to say it's an ink that I've kind of fallen in love with because I have actually used about half an 80ml bottle within the space, I want to say, of about 6 months. So this is Diamine Imperial Blue. But this is a very, very nice coloured ink. The next ink is Diamine Imperial Purple. Now, I just want to show you here, but there is a lot of gold sheen around the rim of that bottle. So this is a sheening ink. So we'll do an ink swatch. And you can see here, it's quite an interesting purple. Now, this isn't a purple I normally would go for. Now, a lot of you have said that you prefer this one. I'm just doing a second pass there to show the difference between a wet and gold or wet and dry nib. See if I can get some gold sheen coming out of this one. Now, typically my go-to purple is Diamine Majestic Purple, not Diamine Imperial Purple. But I thought I would give this a try because a lot of you have suggested it. So this is Diamine, and it is Imperial Purple. And I have to say, I typically do prefer Majestic Purple. I do think it's a little bit more on the darker side of purple, but we'll see that here today and see what Imperial Purple looks like. The next ink is Diamine China Blue. So we'll do an ink swatch. And I have to say that this is a blue that I have been liking quite a lot. And we'll do a second pass just over the top part there, just to make it a little bit more wetter, so we can show the difference between what a wet and a dry writing nib would look like. So this is Diamine, and it is China Blue. And typically, I've always thought of China sort of plateware, and China plateware tends to be a lot lighter blue than this. The next ink is Diamine Aqua Lagoon. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I have to say that this is one of the favourite sort of bluey green inks that I will go for. So this is, I wouldn't really call it turquoise, but it's what I think of when I think of sort of Caribbean kind of water. So this is Diamine, and it is Aqua Lagoon. But that is a very, very lovely bluey green coloured ink, and I have to say it's one I've gone through a lot. I think I've gone through about 2 80ml bottles of it, and I since bought another 80ml bottle, and I bought, I think, 3 or 4 30ml bottles to top those up. It's an ink that I just seem to go through a lot lately. The next ink is Diamine Lavender. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And this is, I would definitely say, a lavender coloured ink. And this is kind of what I think of when I look at Diamine Purple above. We'll do a second pass. We'll see if we can get any sheen out of this ink, and we'll show the difference between a wet and dry writing nib. So this is Diamine Lavender. And that is a V. I typically write my V's a little bit like a U. And then the last ink here on this ink comparison is Diamine Violet. Now, what I do want to show you is that this also has a lot of goldish sheen, or greeny gold sheen, on that rim of the bottle. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I do like this violet ink. This is an ink, again, I've written a lot of. This is quite an interesting colour to me. I've done a difference here between a wet and a dry writing nib, and we'll see if that can show up some of the sheen as well here. So this is Diamine, and it's violet. But that is an ink that I've been using a lot of lately. So I think let's take a look at these inks now they have dried. So the first one is Diamine Imperial Blue. And I have to say, I am liking this colour quite a lot. It does have, I'd say, a hint of violet to it. It definitely looks good. You can see the difference between a wet and a dry writing nib. There is a little bit of shading going on. There's no sheen though, but it is quite a nice coloured ink, and I think that's one I might have to ink up a little bit more. The next ink is Diamine Imperial Purple, and a lot of purple inks do sheen. Certainly a lot of the inks that are purple from Diamine sheen as well. I typically prefer Diamine Majestic Purple because I typically find it writes a little bit more on the darker side. But I have to say I am liking this Diamine Imperial Purple. So there's a huge difference between a wet and a dry writing nib. You can already see the gorgeous sheen that is on that ink swatch. So around the pulled edges, you can see that sort of greeny, goldy coloured sheen. And you can also see it, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you can also see it on the writing sample as well. So that is a very, very nice purple coloured ink, especially if you like a sheening ink. The next ink here is Diamine China Blue, and you can see a little bit of a difference between the wet and a dry sample there. You can see there's a lot of shading going on in this ink, and there is also again some sheen, and I hadn't actually seen this, and I have used a fair amount of my 80ml bottle, and I've not seen any sheen in the writing sample, and I have to say I don't see sheen in that writing sample either. However, I do see sheen around the pulled edges here. It really does look quite nice. So that's an interesting ink for sure. It's just a shame that you don't see it a lot in the writing sample, the sheening aspect of it. The next ink here is Diamine Aqua Lagoon. You can definitely see a lot of difference between a wet and a dry writing nib. There is a little bit of shading going on, mostly around the pulled areas. Now, can you see any sheen? No, you cannot. But there is a bit of shading going on there. So this is a favourite colour of mine. It's a colour that I do gravitate towards a lot. I think I mentioned I have gone through several 80ml bottles of that already, and I have another 2 80ml bottles, and I think another 3 or 4. I think I bought 4 or 5 bottles of the 30ml to top up the 80ml that was empty, and I bought another 80ml on top of that. So I do have a lot of this, but I do go through it a lot. So that doesn't bother me, because I know I will eventually get through that ink. Might take me a couple of years, but I'll get through it. The next ink here is Diamine Lavender, and I have to say, if you want a lavender coloured ink, this really is the ink to have. So you can see a huge difference here between a wet and a dry writing nib. There's quite a bit of shading going on there as well, as you can see, especially around the pulled areas here. So it is a very nice shading ink. Now, is there any sheen? Yes, there is, but it's really hard to see. Around here, I see some sheen, a little bit up here as well. It is very, very minute, but there is some sheen there. There definitely isn't any sheen in the writing sample, though. But this is a beautiful ink that I like to ink up a fair amount. I typically, though, go for Diamine Violet, which is the last ink, and I think you can probably see why. There's a little bit of difference between a wet and a dry writing nib, but this is a bit of a sheen monster. So you can see, hopefully, that there on camera, that sheen is very, very nice. It really does sheen. So there's a lot of gold sheen around here, and there's patchy gold sheen all over that area. So it really is a beautiful ink. Now, does it have it in the writing sample? Yeah, there is actually. There is a little bit. It's hard to see around the V, I, and O. you can see some sheen there. So there is some sheen, but it's not as much as you might see, say, in Diamine Imperial Purple. But it is a nice coloured ink, and Diamine Violet is an ink that I keep inking up a lot, and I have used a lot of that bottle, more so than Diamine Lavender. So there you have it. That's my Diamine inks comparison number 8 video. If you like any of these inks, do let me know in the comments below. Likewise, if you have any other similar inks that you like that are a good comparison, do let me know in the comments below. So that's my Diamine inks comparison number 8 video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye-bye.